3 weeks had passed since the night at Adrian's estate. Ava hadn't heard from Chioma. Not a call. Not a trace. But she wasn't naive. Chioma was watching, waiting, deciding whether Ava was a threat or a problem. Ava stayed off-grid, hopping between cheap hotels and unregistered lodges across Ogun, Edo, and now Port Harcourt. She traveled by night, kept her phone off and paid in cash. The ledger, still hidden, not scanned, not opened, but the knowledge of it sat on her skin like sweat. One night she slipped into a cybercafe, wrote a simple, anonymous email to a Lagos-based journalist known for unearthing political rot. No names, no attachments, just 5 words. If I disappear, ask about the Cole family ledger. She hit send, then walked out. In Adrian's new hideout, Victoria Island, Adrian poured himself a drink in silence. Raven entered, cautious. We've tracked her signal, briefly, in Port Harcourt. Then it vanished again. Adrian didn't look up. She's learning. Raven cleared his throat. Chioma. She's off mission, Adrian said coldly. She's not taking orders. She's watching Ava. I think she's trying to decide if she can become her. Raven raised a brow. Replace her. Adrian looked out the window, expression unreadable. No, wear her. Like a coat. Chioma doesn't want the truth, she wants the story. He downed the drink. Let her try. Ava's not who she used to be. Ava, alone in a small bar in Asaba. Ava sipped her cheap drink, dressed like a local, cap low over her face. A man sat beside her, too casually. You're far from Lagos, he said. Ava didn't turn. I like the quiet. He smiled faintly. You're not here for quiet. You're here because you're ready to fight back. She froze. He slid a small package toward her across the counter. No name. No explanation. Just a single note attached. You're not the only one with a copy of the ledger. But you're the only one who still has her soul. Before Ava could ask anything, the man was gone. And her war had just restarted. The envelope sat unopened on the bed for hours. Ava stared at it like it was a bomb because it was. Who sent it? Why now? She peeled it open with shaking fingers. Inside. SIM card. Single page. Handwritten. Leak the ledger and Chioma dies. Ava's breath caught. She turned the page over. A photo was paperclipped to the back. Chioma, bound, gagged, her face bruised. Alive. Just barely. She staggered back against the motel wall, hand trembling. This wasn't a threat. This was a warning shot. She powered up an old burner phone and inserted the SIM. It rang instantly. She answered without a word. Adrian's voice flowed through like cold smoke. You should have stayed gone, Ava. She said nothing. Now you've forced me to show you the cost of curiosity. She forced herself to speak. Where is she? You don't get to ask questions. You get to decide. Quiet or war. He hung up. Ava stared at the screen, heart racing. Then, for the first time in days, she opened her bag and pulled out the ledger. She flipped through the pages. Each name was like a matchstick. Government officials. Army generals. Names that moved Lagos behind closed doors. Then, toward the back, her name. Avon Kemdalim, code reference. PRN, D7AL. Acquired by AC, tagged under containment strategy. Her entire body froze. She wasn't just a mistake. She was a plan. Cut to Adrian's safe house. Banana Island. Raven stood near the window. She won't leak it, he said. Not with Chioma in custody. Adrian exhaled. She's angry. But she's not reckless. Raven raised an eyebrow. And if she chooses war? Adrian's face hardened. Then we erase her. Along with everything she thinks she knows. Final scene, Ava. Ava stood alone outside the cybercafe again. This time no hood. No disguise. She sent a voice note to a contact at an independent radio station. If anything happens to a woman named Chioma, or to me, this ledger goes live. No more hiding. She looked up at the sky. Rain beginning to fall. Let's see who breaks first. The motel room was silent, except for the ticking wall clock and the hum of the ceiling fan. Ava sat on the bed, her eyes locked on the ledger, and a folded envelope with Chioma's blood-stained earring inside. The message was clear: leak this and Chioma dies. But Ava had learned something in the last few weeks. There's always a third option. Cut to Adrian's office that same night. Adrian paced in front of a live feed showing Chioma, tied and unconscious in a dimly lit basement. Raven watched from the corner. She hasn't moved in hours. Adrian said nothing. His phone buzzed. An audio message. Ava's voice. Let's make a trade. You give me Chioma alive, unharmed. In return, I won't leak the ledger yet. But here's the catch, Adrian. If I don't hear her voice in 24 hours, I'll hand it to the press myself and send every person named in this file a personal copy. Tick-tock. The message ended. Adrian stared at his phone, eyes stormy. She's negotiating, Raven said, half impressed. Adrian muttered. She's learning too fast. Scene cut. 8 hours later, on the Lekki Bridge. Ava stood by a black SUV, dressed in plain jeans and a hoodie. Car approached. Stop. Doors opened. Raven stepped out first. Then Chioma, bruised, limping but breathing. Ava blinked back tears. They didn't hug. They didn't speak. Chioma just nodded slightly. A silent thank you. Ava looked at Raven. Tell Adrian I kept my word. Raven tilted his head. Did you? Ava said nothing. She walked away with Chioma. But she left something in the SUV. A USB flash drive. Me. Just a warning. Final scene. Inside a church in Alupaju. Ava sat quietly as Chioma's wounds were cleaned by a retired nurse. Chioma finally whispered. You didn't have to save me. I know, Ava replied. Chioma stared at her. What are you going to do next? Ava looked out the window, her voice calm. I'm going to choose war. On my terms. One leak at a time. One name at a time. Until every man that ever bought silence feels what it's like to be hunted. She turned to Chioma. Are you in? Chioma, still weak, smiled. Let's burn them slowly. The building was quiet. A dusty compound in Surulere. Inside, a struggling radio station barely clinging to relevance. Radio 93.5 FM, known for music, gossip, and the occasional underdog exposé. But tonight, it was about to host the most dangerous broadcast Nigeria had heard in decades. Ava stood behind the studio glass. On the other side, Zeno, a young presenter with dreams too big for his salary, sat at the mic. She had handed him a brown envelope an hour ago. No explanation, just instructions, and a voice memo. Zeno cleared his throat, then pressed play. Ava's voice came through, calm and deadly. My name is Ava Nkemdelim. If you're hearing this, it means I've survived long enough to expose the truth, or I'm already dead. I have a list. Real list. Not social media gossip. Not conspiracy. Counts. Proof. The Cole family. The old guard. Their politicians. Their private militias. The money they've buried. The lives they've erased. And I'm going to leak it. Not all at once. But one name at a time. This is your warning. This is the first spark. The broadcast ended. And Lagos exploded. Cut to Ikoyi, a private compound. A black Mercedes pulled in fast. Inside, Chief Maduk, one of the names in the ledger Ava never expected to start with. He'd been part of the oil money laundering ring exposed in the first leak. He was sweating. Phones were ringing. One call from the Minister of State. Another from the Vice President's Chief of Staff. This girl, he hissed to his driver, is not just a nuisance anymore. She's a national risk. Cut to Adrian's apartment, Lekki Phase 1. Adrian sat on the edge of his desk, listening to the radio playback again. Raven spoke from the corner. She started with Maduk. Strategic. Adrian smiled faintly. She's not trying to kill us. Not yet. She's starting a war of fear, making them look over their shoulders. He leaned forward, eyes glowing. She's learned the one thing that makes men in power crumble faster than bullets: shame. Final scene. Chioma's burn apartment. Ava stepped over broken glass. She'd leaked the first name, and she knew retaliation would come. Chioma appeared behind her, holding a duffel bag. We need to move. Now. Ava nodded. But not before leaving one last thing on the table, a torn piece of paper that read, "Next, the pastor who funds the killers." The next morning, news stations across Nigeria debated just one thing: Avon Kemdalam's broadcast. The radio host, Zeno, had been arrested. Bloggers were posting redacted pages of the ledger. The public didn't know if it was fake or real, but they were listening. Chioma tossed a burner phone onto the hotel bed. "We need to leave this state," she said. Ava nodded. "Tonight." She turned back to her laptop, preparing the next leak, the one that would name a pastor with ties to military-backed executions in the north. But before she could hit send, she noticed something strange. Her signal had already been traced. Her screen flashed. Connection interrupted. Then the lights went out. Chioma drew her gun immediately. "Stay down," Ava whispered. "Someone sold us out." They moved. The back. Through a corridor. Down the stairs. Out into the crowded streets of Onitsha. They blended with the market women and shouting bus conductors. But they knew. Someone was watching. Cut to inside a warehouse, same hour. Adrian's voice echoed through a burner line. "I want eyes on every terminal within 5 kilometers of that cafe." She was ready to upload again. Beep. Raven's voice responded, tight. "We didn't trace her. Someone else did." "There's a leak." Adrian paused. "Inside her camp." Raven hesitated. "It's possible." Back to Ava and Chioma. By nightfall, they were hiding in an abandoned guest house behind a shut-down filling station. Chioma was pacing, gun still in her belt. Ava sat on the floor, her laptop fried. "They knew we were coming," Ava said. "Not just the location. The timing." Chioma rubbed her forehead. "Only 2 people knew that drop time, you and me." Ava looked up slowly. And then, the thought struck her. There was a third. Someone who had once helped. Someone who claimed to be a contact for press access. Someone Ava trusted enough to ask for VPN help weeks ago. A voice echoed in her mind. "If you need to go dark, I have a guy in tech." No names. Just signal. "Iga. The IT guy from Zeno's team." Ava stood. "We've been played." Chioma froze. "You think he works for Adrian?" Ava's face was stone cold. "I think he works for whoever pays the most." Final scene. Inside a car parked across the street. Tiga sat in the back seat. A laptop on his lap. The screen glowed, a copied folder marked Nkemdalam ledger fragments. He answered a call. A deep voice said, "You've done well. How long before she makes her next move?" Tiga smiled faintly. "She already did. I let her think I saved her once. That was all it took." He looked out the window. "She won't see me coming." They didn't sleep that night. Ava and Chioma took turns watching the door. The air was hot, ill. The silence between them was heavier than a confession. At dawn, Chioma finally broke it. "You sure it was Tiga?" Ava didn't answer. She pulled out a second burner phone and sent a single message. "I need help uploading the pasta drop. Not secure. Can you scramble it?" She waited. 3 minutes later, Tiga replied. "Send it. I'll cloak the signal. Trust me." Ava smiled faintly. 2 hours later, Cyber Cafe Ajagunal. Tiga walked in confidently. He told the cafe attendant to give him a back seat. Dark hoodie. Power bank in his pocket. He logged in. The upload was already waiting for him. Ava had sent him a compressed folder titled Redemption Final.zip. He clicked it. Nothing opened. Then the screen flickered. And a video began to play. Ava's face. Not afraid. Not begging. Just calm. Hi, Tiga. I knew you'd open this. I also knew you'd sell me out. I just didn't know for how much. So I sent you a gift. A silent tracker attached to this file. You just broadcast your exact location. And your real name. Smile. He froze. The door behind him creaked. Chioma stepped inside, gun tucked casually under her wrapper. Tiga stood slowly, hands raised. It's not what you think. Chioma walked past him and smashed the laptop with a single swing of her elbow, then looked at him coldly. You left a trail. You played both sides. Ava's voice came through again via the speaker. But we still need you, Tiga. Tiga blinked. What? You're going to send Adrian a message. One only you can send. You're going to fake my death. Final scene. Adrian's compound later that night. Raven burst into Adrian's office. They got Tiga. And sir. Adrian turned slowly. What? Raven handed him a photo printed on newsprint. A bloodied scarf. Burnt phone. And a caption. Body found in Delta Bush believed to be whistleblower Ava Nkemdelim. Remains unconfirmed. Adrian stared at it, then smiled. She's not dead. Raven blinked. Sir. She's playing me. He dropped the paper onto the table and whispered. Let's play back. Adrian stood at the window, drink untouched. Behind him, Raven flipped through burner phone photos of the alleged crime scene. Ava's scarf, phone casing, droplets of blood. It all looked too staged. You think it's a trick, Raven said. Adrian didn't answer. Instead, he said, remember the girl who used to bring my files to the study? Back when we first moved into the Victoria Island compound. Raven frowned. The intern. The one who quit after the Amira scandal. Adrian nodded slowly. She didn't quit. She disappeared. 3 days after she caught me in the room with the drive. He turned. She sent me a message this morning. Anonymous email. 4 words. Raven raised a brow. And? Adrian whispered. Ava was never alone. Cut to. A secret apartment in Yaba. Chioma stared at Ava across the table. You sure you want to do this? She asked. Ava nodded. Adrian thinks I'm playing cat and mouse. He doesn't know I've already fed a burner phone to one of his staff. Chioma's eyes narrowed. Who? Ava didn't answer. Instead, she pushed a folded note toward her. Chioma read it. Looked up. Are you insane? She's been watching him for years, Ava said. Pretending to be nothing. Quiet. Invisible. The girl with access to his drawers, his office, his trust. Chioma rubbed her temples. But she's unstable. Exactly, Ava replied. Which makes her dangerous enough for Adrian to never suspect. Cut to. Inside Adrian's estate, later that night. The kitchen girl, small, silent, barely noticed, moved through the house like air. She pulled a tray of wine toward the guest room. Inside her apron pocket was a small flash drive. One Ava had given her. One labeled with a sticky note. Play this when no one is watching. And when the lights dimmed and Adrian stepped out for a call, she slipped into his study, inserted the drive, and watched the screen light up. Ava's voice again. Hello, Adrian. You've always underestimated the women who serve you. But this house of glass you've built, we're coming for every single crack. Final scene. Adrian returning to the study. The tray is gone. Flash drive too. But his laptop is still open. On the screen, a live feed from his hidden vault camera. Someone not Ava is inside it. Ripping pages out of the ledger's twin copy. Adrian's voice trembled as he whispered. It's not her.